Hello and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti, and tonight we're talking about all the news that are happening in the world of professional wrestling, and it was a pretty newsworthy week for wrestling. We have All Elite Wrestling, some startup t-shirt company, selling out in 4 minutes in Las Vegas. About 12,000 seats sold. We also have The Undertaker supposedly retiring from professional wrestling and appearing at Double or Nothing weekend. He'll be at Starrcast with Conrad Thompson, and many guests in the world of professional wrestling will be there. And Jericho cutting an awesome promo on Twitter, and a lot more that we're going to be talking about this week. So feel free to drop in some questions on the live chat or in the comments. And of course, if you're new to the Squared Circle Psychobabble, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications as we're trying to get to 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing. And hopefully by Monday morning, we'll be halfway there. We're very close to that halfway mark, Ralph. So let's start with the big news. All Elite Wrestling sold out 4 minutes. How huge is this for not just All Elite Wrestling, but professional wrestling altogether?
I think it's pretty big because as the name of the pay-per-view kind of alludes to, it's them kind of doubling down on what they did with All In, right? So a good majority of the cast and characters that was responsible for All In, we know obviously now they have formed their own wrestling company. They're called All Elite Wrestling, and this was going to be their first show. Now, they had announced, obviously, at the rally that there was going to be a pre-sale. People could get their tickets there, and I think a good majority of the tickets actually sold out then. And then they had, obviously, some reserve tickets that they were going to keep to the side, and everything sold out in 4 minutes. So this is big news, not only just for these guys, but just within the wrestling industry, because it's impressive to see that they were able to do it at All In, but just the fact that they were able to double down, and show that, yes, we can do this pretty much wherever we want, wherever we end up going. That's impressive. So 12,000 seats in 4 minutes. What else can you say? That's an awesome job by these guys.
Now, I do want to bring up the pre-sale. Obviously, the pre-sale code was announced at the ticket event last week, and basically they were saying that anybody that was in attendance would get a pre-sale code. I was seeing on social media that wasn't quite the case. They, I guess, anticipated more people signing up for the pre-sale than anticipated. And some people even had missed out on the tickets altogether with this. And we actually got a super chat here. So thanks to the 90s guy for a $5 donation. Hey, dudes, can you say hi to my brother, Glenn? Love your work. Thanks, 90s guy. Hello, Glenn.
What's up, Glenn? Thanks for the support.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Again, if you want to put anything in the super chat, give us a donation to help us, continue with this show. Any dollar amount counts, and the equipment that we use costs money. And if you want us to improve our quality, a dollar goes a long way. So back to what I was saying, people were having problems with getting tickets, and some people missed out. Did you notice any issues from what you saw around social media, people complaining about the tickets?
I really didn't. The only thing I saw was that there was a little bit of a delay when people were trying to log in. I think there was a little bit of a delay, and people were kind of commenting on that on Twitter. I think even Nick or Matt Jackson actually ended up tweeting about it and just said, "Hey guys, hold on, everything's getting sorted out, but we'll get it taken care of." So these things are bound to happen. They are just forming this company, so bumps are going to happen along the way. The one thing I know I said to you was this is a big step, because as long as everything goes smooth, and for the most part it seems like it did, that will really kind of set a precedence that, hey, we are taking this very seriously. We've got a good roster. We're putting on good shows. We're holding these rallies. And, hey, look, we're going to be able to get tickets to you guys in an orderly fashion, and not only do that, but make sure we're selling out. And have, the packages themselves are pretty impressive. I don't know if you got a chance to look at them, but they're fairly affordable, and for what you get with them, they're pretty solid. So I was impressed with what I was looking at.
The ticket prices were very, very affordable. I know we're going to WrestleMania and we're going to TakeOver that weekend. Combined, I believe our tickets all together were around $270 to $300 after all the service charges, whatever. That was front row for Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
All Elite Wrestling continue to stay with this affordable pricing, or eventually they're going to have to mark up their prices to, keep the business afloat? Yes, I understand the Khan family has a lot of money, but not everybody wants to spend the money that they have. And of course you have to spend money to make money, but at the same time, it's a business and you have to make money at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, I mean, it's just a simple game of supply and demand. If you have a bunch of people that are demanding tickets and there's a limited supply, you can charge a little bit more for your tickets. I think right now you can see the affordable packages because, like I said, it's their first show. They really didn't. I mean, I really did expect it to sell out. I don't know what their expectations were, but I'd assume they thought they would be able to sell this out as well. But we'll see what happens. It all depends on how big the company gets, how big they grow. If they go from 12,000 to 30,000 to 50,000 and beyond that, they need a big fan base, which I think they're going to attract a lot of people away from WWE. They'll have a lot of eyes on their product. And as they continue to grow, they'll be able to charge more for their ticket prices. But I think for the foreseeable future, at least within the first year, I think we're going to see these competitive prices in comparison to what WWE charges for a typical show.
So they sell out in 4 minutes, about 12,000 seats. If you count the pre-sale, which their pre-sale sold out in, I think, 26 minutes. So we're talking 30 minutes altogether for 12,000 seats. Still very impressive.
Definitely.
WrestleMania this year, I believe, sold out roughly around the same time, maybe even longer because of the more seats, and people were, I know I was having issues with buying tickets. I know a lot of people were too. Excuse me. So this feat, 4 minutes, if you're someone in WWE, are you even seeing this and going, wow, we should be worried now?
Well, I think Triple H kind of alluded to this. He said, we've got our eye, and one recent interview we did maybe about a month ago, he said, we've got our eye on them, and, we're paying close attention. And I think that at this point, WWE should be paying close attention. Now, granted, this is, like I said, this is still their first show. They still have a long way to go. But from this point, we know that a couple of things. One, they can sell out multiple times, right? They did it with All In. Granted, they weren't called All Elite Wrestling at that point, but it was very similar cast and characters at that point. They're going to have substantial backing with the Khan family, so we know the money's going to be there. How much they're willing to invest, that remains to be seen. We know at some point we're going to get the announcement of a TV deal.
Yep.
It's just a matter of where they end up and how much and when they're going to be on TV. So we still have a long way to go, but at this point, I think WWE should be paying attention, especially because, we're going to talk about Chris Jericho, but in reality, they were able to attract Chris Jericho from WWE. They offered him a contract. WWE offered him a contract as well. And they were able to get him to go to All Elite Wrestling. The same could be said for Kenny Omega and a handful of the other guys. So right now, are they competing on television? No. But are they competing for talent? Absolutely. That's already happening right now. So if you deny that, you're somewhat delusional. I think WWE is going to pay very close attention to what All Elite Wrestling is doing, even in the small capacity that they're working in right now.
And following up with that, you're talking about you're competing with certain talent. There's a lot of talent right now that are rumored to either be leaving, or vocally disgruntled, or a combination of the two. And because of that, WWE is trying to renegotiate their contract, push them in booking, or kind of let them lay by the wayside. We're seeing it first and foremost by the first group that actually was involved in this first, and that's the Revival.
Yeah.
So since they were rumored to be not renewing asking for their release and everything, they've been pushed. They've been on TV almost every week. Now, granted, it wasn't the greatest TV exposure because sometimes they went backstage and they were focusing on other things. And now they're the tag team champions on Raw. And they're pushing for the old belts to come back and bring back tag team wrestling. And I know tag team wrestling is going to be a huge focal point for All Elite Wrestling.
Yep.
Does WWE see what the Revival asking for their release and the Bucks pushing tag team wrestling as, you know what? we need to do something about our tag team division and actually put some emphasis on it again.
I don't think it's just the tag team division. I think it's across the board. I think All Elite Wrestling is already putting pressure on the WWE in a few different ways. We already talked about talent a little bit, but if you're a guy that's on the independent scene, this is the best thing to happen for you in a very long time, because we already know All Elite Wrestling is going to be committed to pushing some of the younger talent, especially guys that are on the independent scene. Now, if you're the WWE and you know that you're trying to attract good young talent, whether it's to the main roster or to NXT, if you now have a position where you can go to WWE or whatever, however it ends up happening, and you can use that in your negotiations. You don't necessarily have to go to NXT. You don't have to go to the WWE anymore. As long as All Elite Wrestling continues to grow and expand and they're attracting good young talent, that's another alternative. So you look at the WWE attracting guys over the past year like Matt Riddle, really big on the independent scene. Keith Lee, really big on the independent scene. Punishment Martinez, really big on the independent scene. So WWE is going to try to gobble up as much as young talent on the independent scene, and All Elite Wrestling is going to do the same thing as well, I think. So whether it's from the talent standpoint or creative-wise, I think we're going to see a bigger push for the tag teams going forward. You see them trying to put a little more emphasis and focus on younger guys, whether it's Andrade or it's Mustafa Ali. Who knows? Hopefully Balor gets a rightful push. Kevin Owens is supposedly going to get a better push and better position on the main card. So it forces WWE to be honest, where they can't be so much complacent like they think they've been able to do over the course of how many years.
Speaking of Kevin Owens, did you see before, like a couple hours, I guess, Dave Meltzer talked about what Kevin Owens will be doing when he comes back? So apparently he's saying that, one, when Kevin Owens comes back, he will be a babyface. But two, his persona and his character will be the anti-Mr. Perfect. Whatever that means.
Well, they had him kind of do that bowling stunt last week where he threw a gutter ball. So I don't know how that's going to work. Isn't he supposed to be like the prize fighter?
Well, maybe it's like a rib at the fact that, Vince McMahon wants the bodybuilder type and Kevin Owens is nowhere close to that. Yeah. So maybe he kind of uses his comedy because he is, he can deliver those comedic type promos.
He's very charismatic. He's always been good on the mic.
So I don't know. We'll see. But let's move over to the other big news that happened this week. And it's big because, one, it's apparent. I guess it's apparent that The Undertaker is retired.
Yeah.
He removes all his affiliation with WWE on his social media accounts, has this meeting with someone, and then it's announced that he's going to appear at Starrcast 2, which is the wrestling convention happening at Double or Nothing weekend. Now, anyone that has followed wrestling for the last 30 years knows that The Undertaker is the most loyal employee in WWE history, maybe outside of Howard Finkel.
Well, him or Shawn Michaels have been the two guys that have never went to WCW. Well, I should say during the whole Monday Night Wars, they never entertained the idea of going to WCW. They were always loyal to Vince McMahon.
Yeah. So now he's going to Starrcast 2.
Yep.
And of course, this brings up the speculations. Is he going to be in Double or Nothing? Is he just there? I mean, I think it's just that he's showing up for the convention. But how big is this? That the biggest name, or one of the biggest names in WWE history, is going to be at this event.
Yeah. I don't know if it means so much, or I don't know if it's so much important that he's going outside of the WWE to do something. I think it speaks more to the level of, what people can do outside of WWE. Meaning, we've seen the kind of rise of, Ring of Honor has certainly gotten bigger. New Japan Pro Wrestling has gotten bigger. Obviously, with All Elite, we know we now have that, which could potentially be competition for the WWE. So there's other alternatives for people outside of the WWE, or within the WWE, to go to outside of the WWE. This is just another example of that. So Undertaker, albeit it's just kind of more or less like a meet and greet, and there's podcasts and things of that nature, but to see somebody like The Undertaker remove all the affiliation of the WWE from his social media, and now he's going to this, and he's teasing certain things like just had a very important meeting with somebody interesting or someone very important. I forget exactly how it was worded, but that's pretty relevant, especially within the wrestling industry with a character like The Undertaker who's been so pivotal throughout the history of professional wrestling.
Now, if he is retired, as they're now reporting as of this morning, he is officially retired, and this is his first post-WWE event in retirement. He's not scheduled to be at WrestleMania, and he's not scheduled to be at the Saudi Arabia show in May. I find it a little odd that WWE has not announced anyone for the Hall of Fame yet.
Yep.
Usually we hear about 2 or 3 by now. And if Undertaker is retired, you would assume he's the headliner that year.
Yeah.
Do you think something like this is the reason why WWE has not announced anybody yet for the Hall of Fame?
Potentially. I mean, if he was the guy that they were anticipating being the headliner, it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, was there some type of weird falling out that they didn't really announce or didn't get leaked? It could be. It could just be that Undertaker told them, he's no longer under contract. He wants to try and do things outside of WWE, and, whether it's meet and greets or special appearances elsewhere, doesn't have to necessarily wrestle. Yeah, I mean, if he goes to the Starrcast thing, I mean, and one way or another, if he shows up at Double or Nothing, I don't think Vince is going to necessarily want to have him highlighted as the headliner of the Hall of Fame.
But at the same time, there are other people associated with WWE that are going to be at Starrcast. Jerry the King Lawler, who's under contract with WWE, is there. Hall and Nash are there. Sting is there. And I don't know if Sting has any Legends deal right now with WWE, but that's the other thing. Sting is going to be there. The Undertaker's going to be there. Everybody wants this dream match that they never got, and they should have had back at WrestleMania, 31?
Should have happened about 15 years ago.
Yeah, but what if, and this is just me being a complete mark and fantasy book in this, but what if All Elite Wrestling does the unthinkable and books this show and this match, Sting versus The Taker, at Double or Nothing? One, that would hugely bring up the pay-per-view buys because it's like, okay, this is something we never thought we were going to see. But here's the problem. They are way past their prime.
Exactly.
Do you even want to see it at this point?
I personally don't. I think it would make for a really cool moment if All Elite Wrestling can get them in the same ring and even do something as simple as a face-off, because this has been something people have been clamoring for years. And this would say a lot for these guys to be able to bring those two entities, these huge stars from throughout the wrestling history, bring them face to face. That actually would mean a lot. It would make it be a pretty significant moment. But at the end of the day, like we've said, we've seen The Undertaker in the ring the past several years. He certainly is well past his prime. Sting didn't necessarily look his best when he wrestled his last time, and we know he obviously was hurt and he was kind of forced into retirement. At this point in their careers, I don't necessarily want to see it. Would I be open to some type of face-off and promo type thing? Absolutely. Why not? It would be a cool moment, and it would even mean more for the history of professional wrestling for those guys to say, hey, we got this done. The WWE was never able to put this together. Look what we did. So that would mean a lot for them.
And not only that, when they had Sting, he was still in decent shape. I mean, it was a freak accident that injured him and ended his career. Yep. And The Undertaker, at that point, wasn't quite as sluggish and old and past his prime to the point where, oh my God, he's unwatchable to watch now. He had that match with Bray Wyatt. It wasn't the greatest match, but still, it wasn't like, oh my God, The Undertaker needs to retire. Mm-hmm. That was the time to have that match. And instead, for whatever reason, it was Triple H versus Sting. They still had a decent match, so you can't knock them for that. But still, if All Elite Wrestling were able to do this, huge missed opportunity by WWE, because they had it. They could have sold millions and millions of more pay-per-views, I think, and I'm exaggerating with the word millions, trust me, but still a lot more pay-per-views to get that done.
Yeah.
And they didn't. Yeah. And maybe they were planning it for the following year, and because Sting got hurt, it never happened. But still,
there may be no more recognizable, or not. There may not be a more recognizable individual throughout the professional wrestling WWE history, I should say, than the Undertaker.
Right.
Like that. Just the brand or the entity of the Undertaker is so synonymous with the WWE. And the same could be said for Sting for WCW, I would think.
Especially during the Attitude Era.
Yeah, so one way or another, even to get them as a face-to-face or something like that would be pretty epic. It would mean a lot for the history of the industry. But as far as a match is concerned, I don't want to see it at this point.
All right, so let us know in the comments what you think. Sting versus Taker. Do you want to see it if it somehow happens at Double or Nothing or at any point in All Elite Wrestling? Would you want to see Sting versus The Undertaker? And if you do, make sure you like this video, share it on social media, and of course you can let us know in the live chat as well if you're watching this live. The other person that was pretty loyal to WWE for many, many years, we know he jumped ship, went to New Japan Pro Wrestling, now he's part of All Elite Wrestling, and that's Chris Jericho. And Chris Jericho cuts an amazing promo on Twitter and was it Instagram, and then he tweeted
I saw it on Twitter.
You saw it on I saw it on Twitter
too.
and
YouTube. I knew it was on there. So
he tweets it out, cuts an amazing heel promo saying it's all because of him that All Elite Wrestling is successful and was able to sell out so quickly. And the biggest props you could probably get in professional wrestling right now is The Rock commented on this and said, his promos are just spot on and just amazing. Can you make the case that if Jericho is not involved in this, that they don't sell out as fast and it is not as successful and buzzworthy as we're talking about it here 3 months before the event?
I still think it would have sold out.
But I think in 4 minutes.
Maybe not in 4 minutes, but I do think the signing of Chris Jericho is so pivotal for AEW, more so I think than people understand, because that really set the precedence, like I said, that, look, Chris Jericho is a huge name. He hasn't wrestled anywhere, aside from New Japan Pro Wrestling. He didn't wrestle anywhere else for roughly 20 years. Right? He was loyal to WWE. He was a huge star. He went to New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was really able to recreate himself, create that new image, a whole kind of new persona for himself. He still has a lot of draw power. That's evident if I forget the exact number. I think it was like 30,000 some odd subscriptions. When they announced that Jericho was going to face Kenny Omega, that was the amount of new subscriptions they got for the New Japan World app, right? So that he's automatically going to be a draw. One, because he's already has the fan base from the WWE. He's proven it time and time again that he can reinvent himself. And look at the promo. It just, guys, goes to show it's just a credit or testament of his ability to not only cut a great promo, but just be an amazing talent. So
yeah, I mean, with Jericho, as you said, he's able to reinvent himself over and over again. And there are guys that, they are great at what they do, but they're never able to branch out and do different things. They're pigeonholed and they can't break out of that. Jericho, he was the Lionheart, he was Y2J, he's whatever he is now. He
had the list. He was the Kevin Owens show.
Right. He's done everything. And this just adds to the draw power that he has. Just proves that if he's not there, I don't think All Elite Wrestling is as successful yet. Yeah. We're not talking, video games. We're not talking TV deals just yet, because sure, they would have sold out. I mean, it's 12,000 seats. They are some of the best wrestlers in the world, and there are diehard wrestling fans that just want to see good wrestling outside of WWE. Yeah. So it still would have sold out.
So when they go to, let's say they go to negotiate their TV deals, right? They can go down the list and say, okay, well, what are you going to bring to the table? They could say, we got the Young Bucks, they're big. You can talk about the Elite, they're big. Kenny Omega is a pretty big name, obviously, we all know that. Cody Rhodes, of course, a big name. But when you talk about a guy like Chris Jericho, that's somebody you can point to and be like, that guy right there. That's the credibility guy. That's the guy that's done everything. That's the guy that has all the experience. That's the guy that was in WWE. He's a recognizable face. So when somebody who doesn't necessarily follow wrestling or know wrestling or is not a diehard wrestling fan, you can point to that guy and be like, that guy right there, he's been there, he's done everything there is. So instant credibility, huge score for them. Like I said, when they signed him, that set a precedence for, look, we're not just here to kind of to take part in this. We're here to compete. We're signing Chris Jericho, so it means a lot to their company having a guy like that on their roster, more so than I think people kind of really understand.
And I think what also helps with this too is the fact that they are backed by Tony Khan.
Of course,
and Tony Khan, I've heard some interviews with him. I didn't get a chance to listen to the one with Jericho yet, but from what I've seen, this guy is a huge, huge, huge wrestling fan.
Yep.
Like the stuff that we did as kids and what our dad did when we were kids, he did. He was reading the newsletters. He was watching tapes. He, did the tape trading or whatever. He was more of a WCW guy where we were WWE guys, but still, it's just amazing how he's so passionate about wrestling that he does not want this to fail.
Yeah.
Is AEW at a point now where it is too big to fail?
I don't think any company is too big to fail, or, any company can fail with any bad investment or anything like that, you know? As long as they play their cards right and continue to grow organically, that's the thing that's so surprising about this. It's not forced.
Right.
There's a backing. It started subtly and it's continued to grow and grow and grow. And I think as soon as they get their TV deal and people kind of see what they have to offer, as long as they can keep it consistent, they can keep their egos in check, they'll just continue to grow. It's an organic thing, just like the Yes movement was organic. Just like Stone Cold Steve Austin, that was organic. It's not forced. It's not like, they're forcing it down people's throats and telling you have to watch this. People are intentionally going out of their way because they want to feel like they're a part of this movement.
Right.
And that's the difference between some of the stuff that you'll see with WWE, because in the wrestling industries, you have ups and downs. You have your booms and your busts, and you kind of have, right now with WWE, I think a lot of people are disgruntled with the product because they can't quite figure out who that next big guy is. Cena's part-time, Roman's out, obviously, because he's ill. Unfortunately, he has leukemia. They put all their eggs in that basket. Brock Lesnar's a part-time guy. They don't really know who their guy is that's going to kind of take the torch and run with it for the however many years. They don't have their Hulk Hogan. They don't have their Steve Austin. So people are looking for that alternative, and right now AEW seems to be the hot, fresh, organic alternative that people are choosing to back.
Now, obviously, with this AEW, people are comparing it to WCW.
Yeah.
And the more that comes out and the more you hear Tony Khan and everybody and the news of the TV deal, it's like WCW somehow has reincarnated as AEW. What does AEW have to do quickly to avoid being WCW in the later years?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, like I said, is egos. And I'm not saying any of those guys have egos. All I'm saying is they have to be able to kind of put their egos to the side. Because one of the things I think they might run into is, let's say, for example, you have Cody or the Young Bucks or whoever, they say, okay, we're going to book ourselves to go over you. Eventually, at some point, you may have some bigger name wrestlers who don't agree with that. That's like, if Kenny Omega or one of those guys who has like this executive position with the company goes to Jericho and says, look, Jericho, you're gonna lose tonight. You're gonna lose to Kenny Omega. Okay, well, Jericho's a really big name within the wrestling industry, and I'm not saying this is something that is going to happen. Hopefully it doesn't, but we know that egos and backstage politics played a huge part in the demise of WCW, and that was partially because wrestlers were given a certain amount of creative control. They could turn down storylines if they didn't want to do it. And from everything we've heard, it seems like certain wrestlers are going to be afforded opportunities where they have a certain amount of creative control. So they have to be able to keep that in check. They have to be able to keep egos in check. As long as they can do that and set all of that aside and do what's best for the business at the end of the day, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, and you bring up the egos, and yes, with Cody, the Bucks, and Kenny being executive vice presidents, a lot of people say, well, they're wrestlers. How would you, as an on-air talent, book yourself and you get a conflict of interest? Listen, folks, Cody comes from a dad who did the exact same thing for years.
Yep.
And Dusty never really put himself over in a lot of situations. You know, there's a reason it's called the Dusty finish. Yeah. So there's that, and there's plenty of other wrestlers that have done this over time. Look at Triple H. Triple H I'm sure has some creative control in WWE. Maybe, not, obviously Vince has the final say, but people forget. And this was a while where people would say Triple H buried people.
Yeah, that was always the thing that people would say. Triple H buries people.
But do you know who has lost the most matches at WrestleMania?
I guess you're going to say
Triple H. Yep. He's put over Seth Rollins. He's put over Brock Lesnar. He's put over The Undertaker twice.
Daniel Bryan.
The Ultimate Warrior in his comeback. Yes, that was more Ultimate Warrior than Triple H. But still, he's lost more than he's won. A lot more. I think he's only won, 3 times at WrestleMania in all the matches that he's had.
For the bad rep he gets, I've always said that. In the later years of his career, he certainly put over quite a few guys. Jeff Hardy. He put over Jeff Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it comes back to that. So, speaking of Cody, and this will be the last thing we talk about really quick before we get to your questions. If you have any questions for us, make sure you give them in the live chat here or put it in the comments. If you're watching this after the live stream, then we will answer them within the first 48 hours of this re-air. So Cody Rhodes on the Road to Double or Nothing gives the flyers, the graphics for each of the matches that have already been announced. We have Kenny versus Omega. We have the triple threat match for the women, Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, and Kylie Ray. We have I'm drawing a blank on all
Omega
these matches.
And Jericho.
I said that one already.
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank on these matches.
Versus
Bucks versus Pac versus Hangman.
Yep.
And then we have Cody and a Blur. Yep. They don't show his opponent. So the question is, and of course people are speculating, who is his opponent?
Yep.
Now on the previous episode of Road to Double or Nothing, he gets a phone call and ignores the phone call, but he knows who it is. It's very, very, very personal. And then the person responds with, "Hey, you don't have an opponent for Double or Nothing yet." And then it cuts away.
Yeah. I think that was being the Elite.
No, it was Double.
Was it?
It's the Road to Double or Nothing.
Yep.
So, who is Cody's opponent? Now, I will tease this by saying I'm going to do a video on Monday with 10 possible opponents for Cody Rhodes at Double or Nothing. So make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you know when that video comes out. But quickly, who do you think right now, based on what we very little know, who do you think the opponent is?
So I was trying to go back and forth, and I think the thing we have to keep in mind is they said it was very personal, or it's, so I wrote down a couple different names. One of them would be Marty Scurll. So we know that we believe his contract's running out at some point in April. So that means that he would be able to actually participate in Double or Nothing. That would probably be best case scenario, I think, for everybody, right? That would be a pretty exciting announcement. Second choice I would have would be Nick Aldis. So we know that obviously he won the belt from the NWA Championship at All In from him. Eventually Aldis won that back. Do they have the rubber match? I don't know. I'm just speculating again.
Before Double or Nothing, though, there is a match for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Marty Scurll versus Nick Aldis. April 27th at the Crockett Cup. Whoever wins that match could be facing Cody at Double or Nothing for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
My last dark horse pick would be Wade Barrett or Stu Bennett. For what reason, I don't know, but he's a pretty big name that's just kind of floating around out there. So that would be something I'd be interested to see. But I know I'm excited to find out who it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited too. And like I said, I'm going to have 10 possible names. But the one I think right now, and it's going to be hard to say because I'm pretty sure he's still under contract with WWE. So it'll be hard to see if Vince will allow him or when his contract runs out. But I think it is the brother match that we sort of got, but never really had a payoff to their feud, and that is with Goldust. Now, I don't think he'll use Goldust at the show. He'll use probably the natural Dustin Runnels or something along those lines, or Dustin Rhodes, whatever he's going to use. I think that's the match that they are teasing. Now, again, they could also be doing this and don't have an opponent yet, and they're just teasing everybody and getting everybody to talk about it because, there's 3 months away, and we got to keep them talking and talking and talking. We might not know until April 28th, April 29th.
You might not know till the night of. Might be a surprise.
Maybe they're waiting for someone to be a free agent, whether it's from Ring of Honor, whether it's from WWE or Impact Wrestling. Who knows?
Yep.
Who knows? Shout out to the 90s guy. Another $2 donation on the Super Chat. Thank you. And good day from Australia. I don't know. My Australian accent isn't that good. I apologize. But anyway, now, if you guys have any questions for us, put them in the live chat. And again, remind you, if you are new to the Squared Circle Psychobabble, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. We're trying to get to 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing. And we're about halfway there, going before this live stream here. So, Johnny Ace just asked, is Cody's injury serious? Do we know? Well, he just had surgery. So, yes, it is a serious injury because he had surgery, but he'll be fine for Double or Nothing. No issues there. Let's see. 90s guy, another $2 donation again on the Super Chat. Thank you again. He thinks it's going to be Dustin.
Yeah.
As Cody's opponent. So
that would be cool too.
Very cool. Let's see what else we got here in the questions as I scroll up here. Thank you all for joining us here on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Again, if you're new, we do episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So again, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. I know I did see this question. I knew this question was coming, so I figure let's just quickly go over it. It's from Sean Clement. What do you guys think about the anti-LGBTQ crap that happened on Twitter and people slamming Sonny Kiss and Nyla Rose? Now, personally, I don't care if they're gay, straight, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, whatever it is. I don't care as long as they're good wrestlers. And from what I've seen and from what I heard, they are. And that's what All Elite Wrestling's all about. They want the best talent out there, and it doesn't matter what their sexual orientation is, what their gender is or was. They're the best athletes, and they're going to showcase that at Double or Nothing.
They've been open and honest about that from the start. They don't care about race, gender, any of that stuff. They just want the best athletes, and they're going to try to attract the best athletes to their company that can contribute. So
yeah, it's basically it.
More power to them.
And not only that, I mean, WWE has gay superstars too. They have Sonya Deville, who's lesbian. They had Darren Young, and Pat Patterson is gay. So, that's all you got to say for that. Let's see here. Christopher Sensulo. I hope I pronounced that right. If not, I apologize. Jack Swagger for Cody's opponent.
Did not think of that, but actually he did do an interview and he said that, I don't want to put words in his mouth because I read the interview a while ago, but I know he said that he might be willing to do something with them, so that would be pretty cool to see that. We know that he's fighting in Bellator. I think they actually announced when his next fight is going to be today.
Oh, really?
But he seems to be in really good shape too, so that would be interesting.
Did you see, I'm sure you saw the meme of Swagger on the top saying he has more wins than CM Punk, and Swagger's on the top winning, and Punk's all beat up at the bottom. That came out like the day after he won, but another funny one here. Farj Ghaffari, do you think AEW should borrow some gimmick match ideas from WWE like Hell in a Cell, or should they create their own? That's a good question. Obviously, if they can somehow find a way to create their own matches, that would work. Yep. But I mean, WWE has been so innovative with their matches and taking matches and making them their own. It's very hard to come up with your own kind of match now.
Yeah. What's really left out there to create? I mean, you've got elimination chambers, you've had ladder matches, you've had, I just hope they don't go to like the flag on the pole type stuff. But
as long as Vince Russo's not involved with creative, which I don't think is ever going to happen, we won't see any of those on a pole matches.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll see cage matches and stuff like that somewhere down the line. But I'd prefer if they kind of did their own thing, created their own type of innovative matches.
Super chat from the 90s guy again. I mean, we appreciate all your donations, man. $2 again. Can I get your best Australian accents? Do you even do an Australian accent?
I could try. Did you ever see Dumb and Dumber?
Yes, of course.
Beginning?
Good eye, mate. Let's have another shrimp on the barbie. That's about it. So Crikey. Yeah, the what's his name? The Steve Irwin. Hunter. There you go.
Let us know if that was good. Probably not, but
please don't dislike the video for that, please. Let's see. Lee Jean. Do you think WWE is going to put on good TV shows? Or, excuse me, when do you think WWE is going to put good TV shows?
Have you watched SmackDown? SmackDown's not bad.
And NXT.
NXT is good. WWE has been a little bit better ever since their ratings have been going down. And I think with the emergence of AEW putting a little more pressure on them to be more consistent. And I think as long as AEW continues to grow, I think you'll see that WWE is going to be forced to call up a lot of the younger guys from NXT and really start to put on some much better matches. So I think the biggest issue with WWE television is they're so inconsistent. You see guys on TV one week, they're not getting pushed. Monday was Mojo Rawley? Did they have a vignette?
I did not see one.
That would be a perfect example. I don't remember one. But for 2 weeks straight, you saw this tease of Mojo Rawley. And if he was not on this week, that's a perfect example of what WWE does. They stop. They're not consistent enough. They'll present something for a few weeks, then these guys drop off for a few weeks. And I think that's what really hurts the programming a lot.
Now, CM Nation it's not a question, but I did want to bring this up because he brought it up and I actually saw the same interview. Saw a very interesting interview with Damian Sandow a few days ago. He said that after he pursues acting, he may be interested in All Elite Wrestling.
Yep.
Would you like to see... This actually just brought in a light bulb. Is this the personal... Because they were the Rhodes Scholars.
Yeah.
Is this who we're talking about as Cody's opponent?
Could be.
George Cutting. You think it... what do you think is going to happen with the Usos now? Obviously, if you're not following WWE news, last night, Jimmy Uso was arrested for disorderly conduct while in Detroit. He was drunk, tried fighting a police officer. WWE did release a statement saying that Jonathan Fatu, his real name, is responsible for his own actions and WWE will investigate this.
Yep.
Now, what does this mean for WWE Elimination Chamber? Personally, I think they were going to lose the match anyway. They weren't going to become the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, but their contracts are supposedly up after WrestleMania. So what does that mean for their renewing of their contracts? This does put a bump in that road if WWE was looking to renew that deal, because this is the first time Jimmy Uso or one of the Usos has gotten in trouble with drunk driving and disorderly conduct. It's not the first time. So do they want someone like this on their roster if he's going to keep getting in trouble like this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, people have done much worse, and WWE have, let them pay their penance and then have, forgive them and let them do their thing. So, I mean, we have to see exactly what comes of this. So, like I said, I don't see them winning on Sunday regardless of this happening or not. So what do you think about this whole thing?
I agree. I think we have to wait and see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if he got suspended, but I don't think he's going to get released or anything like that.
No. I don't think so either.
At the end of the day, it's just not a good look for him or the company. But
the Revival, should they bring back the old school ECW title or bring back the old school WCW title?
I don't know how that would... I mean, I don't see the connection.
Yeah, bring back the old tag team championship titles, if anything.
And the winged heavyweight championship, too, while we're at it.
I would love to bring that title back, but I don't think that's ever going to happen as long as you have 2 shows and, you got to have that WWE logo, big, bright thing there. So we'll see. Does AEW have a definite TV deal? Until we hear that they do, they don't.
Chris Jericho said that there were 2 TV deals on the table and that was one of the primary drivers of why he signed with the company. So I'd like to think that that's actually true. It's just a matter of finding out who it's with and when that announcement happens, I think.
When is AEW coming to TV? Well, according to Wrestle Talk, which got this exclusive news break, they're saying that October, when SmackDown moves over to Fox, that's when we'll see AEW, and it'll probably be on Tuesday nights. So, I mean, everyone's been saying that. So, TV for AEW starts in October. And we also had some other dates in that report. It looks like in July, we'll have the Jacksonville show, which the proceeds go to the victims in Florida for the gun violence, the families there. Then there's a show at Royal Albert Hall in London that's happening in August, I believe. Then we have All Out, which will be the sequel to All In September. And then TV starts in October. Let's see here. Any other questions coming up here? This is a good one. Fars Ghaffari. What do you think about Jay White winning the IWGP Heavyweight Championship? Was it too early? And who do you think he faces at the G1 Supercard?
Okada.
I think it's Okada. Whoever wins the New Japan Cup is going to get that slot, and I believe Okada is in that tournament. So, do I think it's too early? Maybe, but with Omega leaving, he was really the only option.
Yeah, I was actually surprised he won this time around. I thought he would lose. This is the same thing I said with this match with Okada. I thought he was going to lose against Okada and then win in a rematch, but obviously that didn't happen. But now, obviously, that sets up potentially the match between Okada and him at the Garden. Now, you have to understand that one of the biggest things that is most synonymous and relevant within New Japan Pro Wrestling has been the Bullet Club. He's the new leader of the Bullet Club. That is very recognizable. That when they talk about branding, if he's the leader of the Bullet Club, you put the belt on him. He's been very vocal about, look, Bullet Club's back. So that's what they're trying to do. Because Kenny Omega and the rest of the Elite are gone, they're no longer a part of the Bullet Club. They have to rebuild it. So I think that's kind of what they're trying to do with this, having Jay White be the champion.
Yeah, I agree too. And the other thing too is the G1 Supercard, they're going to need someone to main event that show. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a New Japan match or a Ring of Honor match. And with Ring of Honor, I know we bring up Jay Lethal. I don't know. I mean, both champions right now, I don't know if any of them are quite MSG main event level. Maybe we need to...
Not in ability, probably in drawing power.
Right, exactly. That's
ability wise, of course they are, but
it's hard to say. But if Okada, it's got to be Okada.
I think so.
It's got to be Okada for the draw power.
Is anyone going to ask about CM Punk tonight?
Oh yes, someone did. 90s guy again, another donation. Thanks again. You are really helping us with the donations, man. He did say, CM Punk, should we just give up now?
No. One thing they always say is never say never in the wrestling industry. This is different. I think with AEW, you really have that organic feel to it. It's fresh. I think if he were to go there even as like a... Let's say he goes there as a commentator. I think he would get that itch again because I think it's a different type of feel, a different type of vibe altogether. When CM Punk was on the indie scene, yes, there were some guys and there were some guys that were really well known. So you had Punk in the independent scene. You had Samoa Joe. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. But you had Daniel Bryanson, those type of guys that were really big in Ring of Honor and within the independent scene. AJ, obviously, yeah. So
CM Punk.
Yep. So those guys were all big outside of the WWE, but they really didn't have a stage to kind of show their talents other than WWE, unless you made it big and made it to WWE. Yes, you had TNA, but that was, it wasn't too popular back then. Now that there is this alternative, especially when you have it's run by the Bucks and all those guys who are so involved still with the independent scene, and that they're dedicated toward kind of promoting these guys. I think Punk, who was so much in touch and liked the independents feel so much, if he were to go there, I think that would rejuvenate him and he would get the itch again to go back into professional wrestling. That's what I think.
And as I said in our first All Elite Wrestling Draft episode, I said, for some reason, I think it's going to happen. He will come back to wrestling, so I'm sticking with that. But then again, I also said that Kenny Omega was going to go back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I was wrong at that.
You're not totally wrong about that. He did tell Dave Meltzer that it's written in his contract he can go and appear in New Japan Pro Wrestling whenever he wants.
That is true.
Never say never. There's nothing written yet where he said himself, there's no plans for him to go back there right now, but it's in his contract. He can go back there. So at some point you might see him back there.
All right. One last question before we head off the air. This is from Nick Jimenez. He's been a huge supporter the last couple of weeks on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. So here's a question. Tony Khan said that he will focus on pay-per-view shows and then TV.
Yep.
Is that a good idea?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think so. I think once they get on TV, they're in a position now where you have to write television on a weekly basis. The one thing that they benefit from is they don't have to do that right now. They put on their shows. They've got 3 to however many months now to plan for this one event. They promote their storylines essentially through YouTube and social media and stuff like that, or they kind of just build it, based off the reputations of the wrestlers. You don't have to rely on a storyline to push the match or sell the pay-per-view. Once you have weekly television, like WWE does, especially when you have multiple shows on multiple days, you now run the risk of exposing yourself. How are these guys going to write weekly television? Will it be compelling? Is it going to be something people are into? We don't know that yet. Right. We don't know that yet. They could come out, have a television deal, put on a couple of good shows, and then run out of ideas. It's entirely possible. It's not outside the realm of something that we may see. Is it likely to happen? I doubt it, but it can happen. It happened with WCW. Their show started to tank because the writing was terrible, the booking was terrible, there were too many egos. I think right now the important thing for them is to continue to expand their brand and continue to get eyeballs to their product, and I think they're doing a really good job at that through social media, through YouTube, and word of mouth. There's a buzz in the air, and they don't need TV deals or weekly television, at least not right now. So stick to the pay-per-views, keep doing what you're doing, they'll be fine.
Now, I agree with you there. I think as far as storyline is concerned, they can continue with being the Elite on how they do their storylines leading up. They did the same thing with All In. They used being the Elite to build those matches. In fact, I think my favorite match of All In was Marty Scurll versus Okada, and it was because of the way they built it on being the Elite and the way it was executed in the ring at All In. And as far as the pay-per-views, focusing on pay-per-views first and then TV, this is one of the reasons why WCW failed, because they were giving so much away on TV that the pay-per-views didn't matter.
Yep.
I mean, we talk about one of the biggest moments in WCW history when they sold out the Georgia Dome. Goldberg won the World Heavyweight Championship from Hogan. That was a Nitro. Mm-hmm. That was not a pay-per-view.
Yep.
And the fact that, one, you sold out a stadium at a TV show, big props to them, no problem there. But you got no money for pay-per-view buys from there. And sure, you might have got some advertising money, but the pay-per-views would have just added to that. So I think Tony Khan, this is one of the things that Tony Khan and the AEW guys probably see as, okay, here's a mistake WCW did. Here's how we could fix that.
Well, not only that, but you look at some of the things that people complain most about WWE. What do they always tell you? The shows are too long. The writing's not good. The booking's not good. Well, if the show's too long and the writing's not compelling and you can't get behind it or invested in it, no one's going to be interested. People won't watch. And that's the knock on WWE. But if right now you don't have a TV deal and you don't go have weekly television, you can't expose yourself. You're not overplaying your hand. So stick to what you got going on right now. It's working. keep doing what you're doing.
So the Tony Khan of our podcast tonight, the 90s guy, another donation. This will be our final question, quick fire question. Another $2. Thank you, man, for your support tonight. Really appreciate it. And again, happy birthday to brother
Cody?
Yeah, seriously. The question is, who is going to be the first AEW champion? I say it. Well, if it's gonna be the Hangman versus Pac match, that is the AEW championship match, I would say Hangman wins because I don't think they want to have a heel be the first champion.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but I mean, if Pac is also contractually obligated to Dragon Gate, and I think he is, and he's just one of those guys that can go back and forth.
I think he could travel with the belt more because he does stuff outside of Dragon Gate.
No, I know he does that, but excuse me. My main point is one of the knocks on obviously WWE and Brock Lesnar is you have a part-time champion, and I would think that they'd want one of their own to first hold that belt, and I think it would be Adam Page.
Now, what if, because I assumed the first match was going to be Hangman versus Pac for the title. Now, what if either A, they do Kenny versus Omega for the title, or people I've seen in the Super Chat, I've seen this on Twitter too, and in comments in previous episodes, do a tournament to decide the champion.
Yeah.
The problem with that is the first show is Double or Nothing, so how do you do a tournament before Double or Nothing unless you do it with some of these indie promotions where they have tournament matches in Northeast Wrestling, in Defy Wrestling, in Bar Wrestling, and go that route.
Sure.
And then put the matches on Being the Elite or clips of it. That would be the only way to do it. It'd be too hard, I think, to do the tournament unless they don't have a championship match until they're on TV. That's the other thing you do,
Unless they ran some type of one-night tournament, kind of like the King of the Ring.
Yeah, they could do that, but again, if they're doing that, they would have to do it before Double or Nothing.
Right. I was just using it as an
or they do the matches during Starrcast. Kind of like how WWE does their NXT matches at Access. Maybe do the same thing at Starrcast. I don't know. Very interesting to see. But I'd like to thank you guys for joining us on, it looks like almost an hour of this podcast. We really appreciate it. If you're new to the podcast, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications as we're trying to get to 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing. Again, thank you all for commenting. Thank you all for joining us in live chat. If you like any of the points that we made, like the video, share it on your social media. Give us a follow on Twitter at SCPB Podcast. For Ralph Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti. And thank you for watching and listening to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Good night, everybody.